And for the latest on this, I'm joined by human rights activist Benedict Rogers. Now, he's the co-founder and chair of Hong Kong Watch. Well, good evening. Thanks so much for joining us on the programme. So, as we were just hearing in that report, there has been international condemnation. The EU, US and UK have all come down on Hong Kong security forces for the violence. But how effective are such condemnations if there is little to no meaningful action that follows?
I think the condemnations are clearly welcome in the sense that they're better than nothing. They're better than silence in the face of what is now a really dire situation. Although I think they are too little too late. And I think now they need to be backed up with action, with potentially targeted Magnitsky-style sanctions on those responsible for torture and other serious abuses, and the development of an international coalition of support to speak with one voice, to urge the Hong Kong government to exercise restraint, to end police brutality, and to address the protesters' grievances through democratic political dialogue.
But given that there's a sense that the international community is worried about their relationship with Beijing and maybe are too concerned about kowtowing to China, do you think there is a realistic possibility that those sanctions, those targeted actions will actually take place?
I think you're absolutely right that for far too long the international community has, exactly as you say, kowtowed to Beijing. I think I do detect the beginnings of a shift in opinion, and it was reported in the British media that a government minister in the UK had started to talk about sanctions. I think we need to keep the pressure up for that, and I'm not under any illusions that it is going to be easy. But I think if the international community can speak with one voice and act together, it may be more possible to see less kowtowing and more action than we might have done before.
And who should lead the charge when it comes to this? Because obviously Britain has got its colonial legacy with Hong Kong. Now, you speak to MPs. Do they have a sense of this special responsibility?
Yes, they do. I think over the last year or so, there has been a real increase in attention on Hong Kong in the British Parliament. That wasn't the case 2 or 3 years ago, which was one of the reasons that I founded Hong Kong Watch, because I was concerned at the lack of understanding and attention. But in recent months, there's been a lot of attention in the Parliament. The problem is that the government has not, in my view, stepped up in the way that it should. In terms of who should lead the charge, personally, I think that Britain has both a moral and a legal responsibility to do so. Legal as a signatory to the Sino-British Joint Declaration. But clearly Britain on its own isn't enough. Britain needs to lead an international coalition, perhaps form a contact group at the United Nations to bring together like-minded countries to act together. But I think Britain should lead it.
OK, Britain should lead it because of a moral and legal responsibility. Well, thanks so much for joining us on the programme, Benedict Rogers.